Okay, welcome to our workshop, Climate Activism in Schools. This is a workshop from youth environmental activists with climate generation. So let's see, I'm Ava. I use she, her pronouns. And one fun fact about me is that I have a golden retriever. And then I'll pass it to Libby, the other presenter, to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Libby. I use she, her pronouns as well. And a fun fact about me is that I really like daisies. I think they're the best flower. And yeah, we're going to thank you for coming to the workshop. So yeah, like specializes in working to empower youth and provide resources for environmental and social justice activism. So that's what we're going to talk about, climate activism in schools today.
And so this is Climate Generation's mission statement. And so we're a Will Stager legacy, and we work to empower individuals and their communities to engage in solutions to climate change. So we'll start off with this is about obviously climate activism in schools. So we'll start it off with talking about what climate change education is like in schools right now. So Minneapolis schools may or may not teach about climate change in classes. Teachers can choose to talk about it, but it isn't required. And the district lists environmental sustainability as an official value, but this can pan out differently from school to school. And so it's really important that schools teach students about climate change and do things like recycling and composting, especially since like if people learn how to be environmentally conscious when they're younger, then when they're adults, they're more likely to continue to do their part. And then sort of you get communities or like societies that where everyone works to um, help the environment and like keep things clean and safe and help stop global warming and climate change. So I'll pass it over to Libby now.
Yeah, and kind of adding on to what Ava was saying, I'm just going to say a little bit about why, like, we think climate justice education is so important. And it's mostly because educating the young people right now that are going to be leading the world someday, that will have to face this problem throughout our whole lives, it's really important for those people to understand and have the resources and knowledge to know like what their future is going to be like with this climate crisis. So I think that we are the kind of the most important as students to know what we're going to be facing and be prepared for it. And then we focus on climate justice, which I think is really important, just so that everyone can understand who climate change has affected and will affect the most. And how it intersects with other social justice issues.
So now, if you're watching this, you can take the time to think about how your school treats climate change and like what they're doing to teach about or address the climate change issue. Uh, and yeah.
And there'll be a link to that Jamboard somewhere
So,
where you find this video that you can go and add your ideas with other people.
so we sort of talked about like what schools might or might not be doing right now, but so it could very well be that like your school does a lot of like really cool things to teach about and sort of address climate change and global warming. But if your school isn't really doing anything, here's some sort of ideas of what your school could be doing. So your school could teach lessons about climate change crises and how they happened. They could have compost and recycling bins for students at lunch. They could use eco-friendly light bulbs like LEDs or CFLs. They could use non-toxic pesticides and cleaning products. Teachers could teach about the history of climate change and how we got where we are now with the issue. And schools could choose to use solar panels to power a portion or all of the school, either by installing their own solar panels or like drawing from a community solar garden, which is just like sort of like a power plant, but it's solar panels for like an entire community of people, and schools can draw from that if they want to.
Yeah, and then we just wanted to mention how climate change isn't an isolated issue, and it intersects so much with other topics and social justice issues. Like racial justice is a really big one that intersects a lot with climate change. And just in our world, communities of color and poor communities are a lot more likely to feel the effects of climate change sooner and more intensely. Um, so that's just something to always like keep in mind about who this is affecting, and that it's not just this one thing. It's very much connected to a lot of other issues. Um, and yeah, so it's not, it stems from a variety of different actions, and it has many different effects, and it's not just one thing. And so there's probably a way that you can connect climate into your life and something that you care about.
So here's an image that sort of illustrates that point, and shows how climate change can affect one group of people more than others. And so this is like a map of an area in Minneapolis. And so all the little colorful dots are different environmental hazard sites, like factories where there's like a lot of leaks, or like Herc in like North Minneapolis, which is a garbage burner that puts a lot of pollutants in the air. And so those are all the like environmental hazard sites. And then the darker blue, the little sections, the higher the population of people of color. And so you can sort of see that there are far more of the dots closer and in like the dark, closer to and in the darker or darkest blue sections. And so, yeah, Herc would be, if Herc was one of these colorful dots, which it might be, it would definitely be really close to one of the darker blue sections, because companies often put things like that near poor or poor areas, or areas with more people of color, because they believe that those people will care less, or they won't speak out about it as much as a wealthier community would.
Yeah, and then we have another little group brainstorm on a Jamboard. So you can write down ideas for something that you'd like your school to be doing better or differently. Um, and then hopefully other people will have also shared their ideas on there. And just anything that you think your school could be doing better or you would like to push for in your school.
So now we're going to talk about, now that you've sort of learned a little bit about where things stand with climate change education and sort of where they could be, we'll talk now about how to bring about change. So if you want to make change, the first step is to bring the idea to the attention of someone who can do something about it. And so the trouble with this is that often people like teachers or people on like a school board or something, they won't listen. And so here are some different ideas on how to bring it to their attention and then really get them to listen and work with you to solve the problem. So one of the first things you could do is email your teacher and tell them about your idea or your concern, and sort of ask if like, is this already being addressed in some way? And then if it isn't, or if it is, but it's in a way that isn't satisfying to you, you can, talk about your ideas for changing that. And if your teacher does seem receptive to the idea, you could try and like do a little research and then try and provide them with ways to solve the problem. So like if your goal, for example, was to get a teacher to start teaching more about climate justice or climate change history in class, there's a website called the Zinn Education Project, or an organization called Zinn Education Project, and they make like pre-made lesson plans for teachers, and they're really easy and like super free. And so you can just Google Zinn Education, and the first website should be the right one. And yeah, you can provide your teacher with that link and sort of just say, here's a really easy way to teach climate justice education. I think it's really important. You should look at one of these lessons.
And then here are just some more ways to help bring change. So getting other students on your side is very important. If there's a whole bunch of you that all have the same like passion and care about an issue, it'll be a lot easier to get the attention of like administrators and teachers that can make this change happen. So like gather a group of people and get them all on your side and doing research, obviously, to like look into the problem and figure out, you know, how to solve it can be really helpful, especially if you want to like pitch your idea to someone. If you have a lot of research behind it, it'd definitely be good. And then generally making a fuss. If you just are constantly talking about how you care about this and you never give up and you're just always talking about it, that's actually really helpful in getting people to like notice and pay attention. And then other idea was making signs and posters to like advertise around your school, especially if like art is an interest or something. Making visuals about what you care about can be really impactful.
So here are just some pictures of students presenting their ideas to teachers and planning like different things they want to do. Uh, and yeah, so this is just sort of so that you can see that kids have done this before, and teachers, depending on the teacher, they can be really receptive to it. Um, and so all of the ideas we just talked about are just really great, easy ways to try and start and maybe and hopefully succeed in bringing your idea to reality. And so if you really do have an issue that you're super passionate about, then the best thing to do, or a really simple, like if we wanted to make it really simple, simple step process, it would be to name the problem and then come up with a plan and then just give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, then that's totally fine. And you have to try again. You have to remember not to give up, because the problem won't get solved if you don't keep trying to if you don't keep trying to change it, or you don't keep trying to change things, nothing will change. And if you do get someone on your side, like a teacher or a principal or something like that, it's really important to follow through and see that whoever is working to solve your problem isn't going to take like the easy way out, and that they're going to really actually solve the problem. And so if you see things sort of like leaning towards like a half-baked solution that doesn't really work, then speak up again and talk about what you think the best solution would be and why you think what they're planning on doing is wrong.
Yeah, and then we have some examples of students who've done this and it worked out and they were successful. So one example was at a school in Vermont. Students talked to their teachers about wanting a unit on the human impact. And so they selected representatives from each grade and formed this team that met like often with teachers to try and like figure out what they would want the unit to look like. And so like these are the things that they provided like some guidance on for the teachers. And through that, they were able to get a unit.
Yeah, so they talked a bunch with their teachers about it. Um, the like student curriculum team did, and they advocated for like a lot of control over how they're going to shape the unit, and then especially in what like the final assignment would be, or the final project that students would have to make. And so this is an example of one of like the turnouts and something that one group of kids made based on like the project plan that these other students made. And so this game was called Extinction Monopoly, and there's a picture of it. You can sort of tell that it's like Monopoly, but it's about human impact. And so the point of the game and like the unit at large was to help kids learn about how humans have negatively impacted the earth and the things living there. And then at the end of the unit, there was a student survey, and the kids sort of they responded really positively to it, and there were generally just high levels of engagement, and kids were really involved with this project. And so this slide is kind of blank, but we at had our own sort of project like this, the Climate Justice Education Bill. And so this is an example of a graphic we posted on Instagram, but our bill was all about, it was introduced in the Minnesota State Legislature. And if it had been passed, then teachers would have been required to incorporate climate justice education and like climate change history into their lessons and into their curriculums. And so we made some good progress with it, and we got it introduced, and we got state senators to listen to us and at least consider our idea. And so we'll keep working at it, and then maybe one day here in like the near future in Minnesota, it will be required for teachers to teach about this, and everyone will be able to learn about climate justice.
Yeah, the bill's very cool. You should go like check it out. So obviously this presentation was focused on like climate justice education and encouraging schools to do better environmentally. But the strategies we talked about for trying to get things changed in like your school and your education system are definitely not limited to climate activism. And you can obviously use these things to get anything done that you would like or feel passionately about.
So thank you for coming. And this is sort of like the closing of the workshop. And so we really hope you learned something new. And if you want to stay updated on all things climate justice, then you can follow us on social media. So if you have Instagram or Twitter, you can follow us at _climate, or you could check out our website, which is climategen.org, and learn more about and what we do.
And it's kind of hard to do questions in this format, but if you do have any pressing questions or need help with anything that you want to like change, feel free to reach out to us at and we'll definitely want to help you out with any of that. So yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming.